All right, so we're going to be working through the DLA stations that you guys worked through in class. The first problem asks you to find an expression that's equal to 3.5 or 3.5. If I look at Fred's answers, I have 3 to the second power, which is 9, minus, and then when I look at 2 and 1/4, whenever I see fractions in fourths, I think of quarters. So 2 and 1/4 is 2 and 25 hundredths, okay? So I have 2 and 25 hundredths plus 3 and a quarter, 3 and 25 hundredths. 3 plus 2 is 5, a quarter plus a quarter is 50 or half. So I have 9 minus 5.5. All right, I'm going to borrow from the 9 and make it an 8, and 0 becomes a 10. Whenever you add or subtract decimals, you line them up. So I'm going to subtract, and that's 3.5. So it cannot be Fred because his did equal 3.5. On Sarah, I'm going to work parentheses first. 2 to the third power is 8 plus 1 minus 1 and 3/10 plus. And I can change 1/5 to tenths because 5 times 2 is 10 and 1 times 2 is 2. So I have 4 and 2/10 plus 1 and 3/10, which is 5 and 5/10. And I have 8 plus 1 is 9. So I end up with the same subtraction at the end. And I already know that that's 3.5, so it cannot be Sarah. On Jamarquez, I have 2 to the third power, which is 8, minus 4 plus 1, minus 3 divided by 2, which 3 halves is actually 2 goes into 3 one time with 1 left over. So this is actually 1 and 1/2, or I could write that as 1.5. 8 minus 4 is 4 plus 1 is 5, so I end up with 5 minus 1.5. 5 I'm going to borrow here and make this a 10. 4 minus 1 is 3, so this Jamarquez is also 3.5. When you look at Pearl, 4 times 5 is 20. 4 squared is 16 plus 1.5, so I end up with 20 minus 17.5. I'm going to borrow. 10 minus 5 is 5. Bring my decimal down. 9 minus 7 is 2, so this is 2.5, and Pearl did not have an expression equal to 3.5. Our next problem, I'm looking at the things that matter the most here are that there's 1,725 hours of use, and he runs for one light bulb, and Jake runs the heating and lighting system all day for a year. So I need to figure out first how many hours there are in a year. There's 365 days in a year, 24 hours in a day. So when I multiply these two together, I end up with 8,760. Now I'm going to take that 8,760 and divide it by 1,725 because that's how many hours each light bulb can be used. 1725 goes into 8765 times, which is 8,625. If you're unsure to figure out how you would figure that out, you can just pick numbers and multiply it by 1725 to see if it's close to 8760. When you subtract those two, it should be 1725 or less. All right, so 1725, you've got to borrow from the 6 and make it a 5 and 10 here. So you have 5, 3, 1, 135. So you have 5 light bulbs with a remainder. And what you would have to do in order to make sure that your system was in operation for the whole entire year is by 6 light bulbs. Because if there's change left over, if there's a remainder left over, and you don't have that extra light bulb, then you'll be part of the year without a light bulb. So your answer here is 6. All right, on the next one, the most important thing you need to understand is that a snake with a lower LD50 has a more poisonous venom. All right? So if you look at the table and look at the statements, it says the Southern Copperhead LD50 concentration is 0.2 milligrams per kilograms less than the cottonmouth. It's not talking about what was more poisonous, just what had just the actual number. So if you look at the Southern Copperhead, it was 25 and 6/10, and that's 0.2 less than the 25 and 8/10. So your answer here is A. If you look at B, the night adder is 100 times more poisonous. The night adder is 15. And the Congo water cobra is 1200. Now remember, it said a snake with a lower LD50 is more poisonous. So because of that, that's not the case. On C, the western diamondback rattlesnake is 7 1/10 less poisonous than the southern copperhead. If you look at the southern copperhead, it's at a 25.6. If you look at the western diamondback, it's 18 5/10. It's the western diamondback is more poisonous, not less poisonous than the southern copperhead because of the lower LD50. And then the last one, the Congo water cobra, is 154 times less poisonous. Well, the Congo water cobra is the most poisonous snake on this list because of its low LD50. And remember, it said a snake with a lower LD50 has a more poisonous venom than a snake with a higher. So the answer to this problem was A. Number 4, Mia is 2.5 years older than Chloe. Alan is 6.5 years younger than Chloe. Mia is 12. What's Alan's age? So you're going to first take 12, Mia's age, and subtract out 2.5 to find out what Chloe's age is. So I'm going to take 12 minus 2.5. I got to borrow. 12 goes at 11 and 2 halves. So I'm left with 9.5. And Alan is 6.5. That's Chloe's age. Alan is 6.5 years younger than Chloe. So I'm going to take 9.5 and subtract out 6.5. The halves, 1/2 minus 1/2 is 0. 9 minus 6 is 3. So Alan is 3 years old. Number 5, when you're looking at relationships like this and they give you values for J and M, they're saying to actually put the number for J into the equation, and then what you get out will be your M. So if I take 8.5 and add 0.05 or 5/100 to that, I'm going to end up with 8 55/100. So immediately I can eliminate A, C, and D. And B is your answer. I'm sorry, that is not right. Let me go back and fix this. So the only one we can eliminate, see, Miss Watkins even gets confused on these sometimes. Our output, or our M, should be 8 55/100. So J is our input, so 8.5, and our output should be 8 55/100. So A is not correct. Also, because of that, 8.5 is your input. Your output would be 8 55/100. So C also is not correct. All right, D could be a possibility. To see if B would be, you would take 8 55/100 and add 5/100 to that. And you would get 8 6/10, which that is not the output. So your correct answer here is D. Sorry for the confusion. All right, number 6. Maria bought 8 cups of strawberries. She used 1.5 cups of the strawberries to make a salad and 3 3/8 cups of strawberries to make a pie. If she's using that amount, then you would not add back to it because she starts with an amount and she's going to use it. So that would be subtracting. All right, so D would automatically be out. All right. She needs 4 cups of strawberries to make milkshakes. So that's not, she didn't use 4 cups. That's just what she needs to make milkshakes. So C would also be out because what they did was subtract the amount that she needed for milkshakes. If you look at 1 1/2, and 3 3/8. You would add those two together to see what she would have left, okay? So if you look at A, she has 3 8 minus the 3 3/8, and then what they did was change that 1/2 to 4/8 to have a common denominator. When they subtracted that, that's 8 minus 3 plus 1 is 4, and 7/8. When you subtract those, you get 7. You got to borrow 7 and 7/8. 7 and 8/8 minus 4 and 7/8, which would give you 3 and 1/8. She needs 4 cups of strawberries to make milkshakes, and 3 and 1/8 is not enough. So your answer here would be A. Number 7, Mr. Atkinson has 5 1/4 pounds of dry fish food. He put an equal amount of food into 3 containers. So I'm taking a whole and I'm dividing it into 3 equal parts. When you're dividing fractions, you keep the first fraction the same, but here I have a mixed number, so I need to make it into an improper fraction. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is 21. And I'm going to make the whole number also into a fraction. When you're dividing fractions, you keep the first number the same, you change the sign, and you flip the second fraction. Now here I can cross-reduce because I have 3 and 21. They both share a common factor of 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 21 divided by 3 is 7. So now when I multiply, I have 7/4, which I do need to change that into from an improper fraction to a mixed number. So 7 divided by 4, 7 divided by 4. 4 goes into 7 one time with 3 left over. My answer is 1 3/4, which is B, 1 3/4 of a pound. Number 8, Scott was 63 3/8 inches tall when he started 7th grade and 65 1/4 inches tall when he started 8th grade. How many inches did he grow? So I'm going to take his ending height and subtract out his beginning height. The first thing I need to do is find a common denominator. The LCD between 4 and 8 is 8. So 65, 4 times 2 is 8, 1 times 2 is 2, minus 63 3/8. If you notice here, if I have 2 8s, you cannot take 3 8s from me. So what I'm going to do is borrow. So the 65 turns into 64 8/8 plus the 2 8s that's already there. So I have 64 10/8 minus 63 3/8, which 10 minus 3 is 7, and 64 minus 63 is 1. So my answer here is D, 1 7/8. On the graph below shows how the prices of 2 different menu items at a restaurant have changed from year 1 to year 7. They're asking you to predict the future. And what you do here is look at the pattern that's happened. In all of these, they've gone up and then stayed. Up, stayed. Up, stay. So the most predictable pattern would be to go up and stay. On the same, with one graph is the same as the other. So if you look at A, it says in year 8. So year 8 is here. They're saying the price of a hamburger will be $7. You go up and look over, and the price of the hamburger was $7. So A is my answer. I'm going to also look through to make sure B through D are not right as well. So in year 9, the price of a chicken sandwich will be $9. So I'm going to go to 9. I'm going to go up to chicken sandwich, and it's only $8.50. So that is not my answer. In year 8, the difference between the price of a chicken sandwich and the price of a hamburger will be $1. In year 8, $1 would be only 2 ticks away, because each tick is 50 cents. So this would be $1.50 in year 8, so that's not it. And in year 9, the price of a chicken sandwich plus the price of a hamburger will be $16.50. So in year 9, a chicken sandwich would be $8.50, and a hamburger would be $7, which is $15.50. So that's not correct either. A is your answer. For number 10, it says which statement is best supported by the graph. Well, I'm going to look, and first of all, I'm going to make myself marks on how much the graph is going to go up by each time. Okay, and that is 25. It says a total of 500 garbage cans were emptied in these 5 neighborhoods. So I'm going to take how much was emptied in all 5 neighborhoods, 75 plus 125 plus 150 plus 175 plus 50. When I add those together, I get 5, 10, 15. I get 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 5, 6, 27, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I get 575, which that is more than 500. So A is not your answer. On B, it says the combined number of garbage cans emptied in neighborhood M and N. So I have to figure out how many M and N had together. It's 125 plus 75, so that's 200 together. Is 50 more than the number of garbage cans emptied in P? And neighborhood P had 150. Okay, so that is true. B is true. I also want to check C. The difference between the greatest number of garbage cans emptied and the least is 110. Okay, so I'm going to take the biggest number, which is 175, and subtract out the smallest number, which is 50, and I would get 125. So that is not true. And D, the combined number of garbage cans emptied in neighborhood P and Q is 375 more than the number of garbage cans emptied in R. So P and Q together would be 150 plus 175. And that's 325 total. That's not even, you can't even make that be 375 more than a number. So D is out and B is your answer. For number 11, it says after he completed the line plot, he found a 12th. Oh, I'm sorry. William made the line plot below to show the length of 12 worms he found in his garden. After he completed the line plot, he found a 12th worm, which is modeled below. Use the ruler provided to measure the length of the worm to the nearest half centimeter. If the data for the 12th worm are added to the line plot, which statement would be true? When you measure the worm, you would find that to the nearest centimeter, and you have to be careful about this, to the nearest centimeter, the worm is 7 centimeters long. Okay? All right. So, if you look, exactly 1/2 the worms have a length that is less than 12.5 centimeters. Well, if you look at how many worms there are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, plus yours, which is 12. They said exactly 1/2 the worms have a length that's less than 12.5. Here's 12.5. It's got to be less. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Plus yours would be 7. So that's not exactly half. For every worm that is 14 centimeters long, there are 2 worms that are 12 centimeters long. So if you look, there's one worm that's 14 centimeters long, and there's only one worm that's 12. So that one's also out. For H, for every worm that is 11 centimeters long, there is one worm that is 11.5. And that is true. There's one that's 11, there's one that's 11.5. So H is your answer. Number 12, the list below shows the number of rides at 9 different rodeos. What's the median number of rides at these rodeos? I'm going to have to put these numbers in order first. So I'm going to do 9, 10, 2 11s, a 12, 2 13s, a 14, and 28. Now I'm going to cross through until I get to my middle number, which is 12, and that's your median. Your mean, you would add up all the numbers together. So 28, 11, 13, 10, 9, 12, 13, 11, and 14. When you add them up, you get 121. Then you would need to divide that by 9. 9 goes into 12 one time. And then 9 goes into 31 3 times. Then I have a remainder of 4. I'm going to put a decimal and a 0. 9 goes into 44 times, which is 36, and have another remainder of 4. So this is going to be a repeating decimal. Your mean is 13.4 repeating. Does the mean or median best represent the data set? The median does because of the outlier. Make sure you guys study for this DLA. You want to do your very best on the DLA, and hopefully we will see everybody on Wednesday.